Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying the holidays with your friends and family. 2020 has been a different kind of year where we're all mostly social distancing. If that's the case, hopefully you've been able to either FaceTime or call those you haven't been able to see in person this year. So I'm continuing my series on how I made this Buche de Noel, also known as a YULE log. If you haven't seen my previous video where I made the macarons, make sure you head on over and watch that first, because the macarons have to mature before you put them on the cake. Alright, without much ado, let's get into making the cake itself. We'll start off by preparing our baking pan. So you want to spray it down with some cooking spray or with some shortening, and then clean off any excess with your paper towel. Next, you want to line your baking tray with some parchment paper just to make sure that your cake doesn't stick to the baking pan. Now you want to set that aside, and then we'll start working on the cake. So mix together your dry ingredients. So that'll be your flour, baking powder, and salt. Set that aside, and then I'll start working on some of your wet ingredients. So combine your oil, your buttermilk, or your milk mixed with vinegar. I'll have the recipe for the homemade buttermilk in the description field below. Also add your food coloring to that, and then mix thoroughly until the color is well incorporated. Next, add your vanilla, and make sure it's pure vanilla extract because the taste is different, and then set that aside. Next, you want to whisk your eggs until they're nice and thick, and then you can start adding your sugar slowly to your eggs until they become pale yellow, and then they reach the ribbon stage. So you'll know they reach the ribbon stage when they're thick and the mixture starts to fall back on itself like a ribbon. So you can see here it's really nice, thick and pale, and then when you check it, you'll see that it's thick and that it falls back on itself like a ribbon. So something like that. So next it's time to add the wet ingredients to the eggs. So pour that in slowly and let that whisk until just very well combined. Take the bowl out of the stand mixer and then sieve in your dry ingredients. Fold the dry ingredients in slowly until just combined. You want to make sure you do not remove a lot of the air that you whisked in while you're mixing your egg mixture. So you want to do that gently until just combined. Pour the batter into your prepared baking pan, and you want to pour that slowly from edge to edge, and then level it using your offset spatula. Again, you want to make sure that you're not removing any of the air that you whisked in, so you want to be really careful when you're smoothing out the batter. Bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit preheated oven for about 15 to 16 minutes. Make sure you do not overbake this. You want to check for doneness by pressing on the cake. If it bounces back, then it's ready, and it'll be slightly brown on the top. As soon as you bring it out of the oven, dust it very generously with some powdered sugar. You don't want this to cool down before dusting it with the powdered sugar. So you want to dust that very, very generously, and this will ensure that it doesn't stick once you start to roll it. Then run a knife around the edges just to loosen the cake where it may be stuck to the edges of your baking pan. So be a little careful so you don't tear the cake. So you want to run that right around the cake. Place 2 pieces of kitchen towel lengthwise across the top of the cake, and make sure there's some excess on the edges. You can also use a kitchen towel if you prefer. And then flip the cake over. So you want to place another baking pan on top of it and then flip it over. Now remove your baking pan, and you may need your knife to help you remove the cake if it's still stuck, but in this case it came out perfectly. And then remove the parchment paper. There we go. So now it's time to roll the cake. So you can either roll it from the short side of the cake or from the long side of the cake. So I decided to roll it from the long side of the cake for this particular YULE log. So you want to roll it slowly, and you want to make sure the cake is still very warm, so it will roll without any issues. So roll it and then tuck the paper tissue in on either side of the cake, and then leave it to cool. So next we'll start working on the whipped cream filling. You want to add some water to the gelatin and let it sit aside for a few minutes until it blooms. While the gelatin is setting, add your heavy cream to your mixing bowl and then whisk your heavy cream with your sugar until it starts to thicken. You want to make sure you keep this really, really cold. You don't want your heavy cream to warm up at all. So while the heavy cream is still whisking, check to see if your gelatin has bloomed and has thickened. If it has, then you can melt it either in your microwave for about 10 seconds or in a hot water bath like I did. So you just want to place that in the hot water and then put your bowl of bloomed gelatin in and just continue to stir until the gelatin becomes liquid. You can skim off the top foam of the gelatin if you prefer, but it's not absolutely required. Next, add some of the sugar that we set aside into gelatin and then stir completely until the sugar is dissolved. So next, we're going to temper the gelatin with some of the whipped cream so it doesn't melt all of our whipped cream because gelatin is still warm. So you want to take a little bit of whipped cream and place it in the gelatin to reduce or to bring down the temperature before we add it to the full batch of whipped cream. Continue to whip the heavy cream until it starts to thicken and it looks like soft serve ice cream. You do not want to over whip the heavy cream or also start to separate. So this is what it should look like once it's ready. Now it's time to fill the cake. Again, you want to make sure the cake has cooled down completely to room temperature before you start working on it this way. So unwrap it and then brush it with some simple syrup. So simple syrup is equal parts water and sugar, and then you can put any additional flavor you want. So here I've added a little more vanilla flavor. If you wanted to flavor it with a little brandy or rum or whatever else, feel free to add a tablespoon or so to your simple syrup. So here I'm brushing it liberally. It's a sponge cake, and so you can take some of the liquid. Once you're done brushing with simple syrup, it's time to fill the cake with whipped cream. So now it's time to fill the cake with the whipped cream. So add the whipped cream into the cake liberally, and then using your offset spatula, you want to spread that into the cake. So next you want to roll up the cake roll and then set it aside to chill for a few minutes before we start to decorate the cake. So once the cake is fully chilled, you want to cut off the edges of the cake. So you want to cut off the crusty part of the cake so you can see the beautiful inner swirls of the cake. Also, you notice I already decorated my cake boards for these cakes. I'll have another tutorial on how I decorate my cake boards. Cut the cakes into half. So here I'm actually making mini YULE logs, so that's why I'm cutting it into half. I'll also show you how I make the logs with a little branch on the side. So there's a different style where you have just a small roll. So cut it in half and then place a little buttercream on the middle of your cake board and then place the cake on it. This will help the cake stick onto the cake board without any issues. So now it's time to decorate the cake. So I'm going to put on some buttercream. Again, I'll have a separate tutorial for how I make this German buttercream. So cover the log with the buttercream and then you can texture it using your spatula. So draw it along the buttercream to texture it a little bit. Also, you can pipe on the buttercream if you prefer. I'll show you a picture of a similar cake I made where I just piped it on and made like a naked YULE log. Next, decorate with your macarons, your sugared cranberries. I'll have a separate tutorial on for how I made the sugared cranberries. And also with your rosemary sprigs to make it look a little more festive. So you see, because I have the buttercream on, it's easy for me to stick on the macarons without any issues. So keep decorating your cake the way you like it. So here I'll be showing how I made the additional branch for the YULE log. So you just want to cut a little piece at an angle and then attach it to the main piece of the YULE log using some buttercream. So slather on some buttercream and then just attach it, and then you're going to cover the whole YULE log with more buttercream. Again, it's the same process. You cover it with the buttercream and then you decorate it the way you like it. So in this case, I'm using some sugared cranberries, some rosemary sprigs, and then sprinkles to add a little more festivity to it. So I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends and family. Enjoy the holidays with the ones you love. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, make sure you check out the rest of my recipes, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.